one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Present.
Mr. Liscavige.
Here, Zoom.
Mr. Lombardo.
Here.
McDermott. Here. Mr. McGinley.
Present.
Mr. Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Perry.
Here.
Mr. Thornton.
Here.
Mr. Urban.
Here.
Mr. Willoughby.
Here.
Ms. Radel. Here. All present. Thank you. Attorney Skeen, do you want to announce the executive session?
Yes, before the meeting tonight, we had an executive session.
Okay.
Concerning litigation matters.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to start the new year off the right way. So when we announce executive sessions going forward, we need to be a little more specific for the public. Just saying litigation matters or personal matters is actually not sufficient. And we should be a little more specific when we announce them, without giving details of the case.
Always been,
I'll be on
just say patient and that no decisions are made and no deliberations.
I
Well,
know,
one we're gonna be voting on today. So,
but the public, because they have no knowledge of this ahead of time, they have no information, and it was actually Senate Bill 554 combined with the Sunshine Act and the Reading legal case versus council that decided, I was looking at it today, actually. It has one interesting passage that I'd like to read out loud. Senate Bill 554 combined with the existing Sunshine Act, often referred to as the Reading legal case, cited below, used by the agency when announcing the reasons for entering into executive sessions. And the best example is the cited language in that case from a similar decision from the Supreme Court of Mississippi, where they said, quote, "The reason given must be meaningful. It must be more than some generalized term, which in reality tells the public nothing. To simply say, quote, personnel matters or litigation, unquote, tells nothing. The reason stated must be of sufficient specificity to inform those present that there is in reality a specific discrete matter or area which the board had determined should be discussed in executive session." I don't want to go on and read the whole case, but it is very specific there that, we should give more information than just saying.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Thornton. Well, if we had known, if you wanted to express that before the meeting, we could have taken corrective action moving forward, but now that we know, I'm going to send it to Attorney Skeen and we can see what
Well,
we
the
can
two litigation matters were simple. One was at the Wyoming airport over a hangar, and the second one was judicial watch that sued different counties in the state. That's all. Thank you.
There's no recognitions or ceremonial proclamations. Any deletions from the voting session agenda?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Opposed? Agenda is adopted. Public comment on voting session agenda items only. Mr. Knapp.
Thank you, Mr. McGinley, or Councilman McGinley.
Mr. Slackton.
Council members. I presented my argument with regards to line item 3, placing a government study commission. The last time this was attempted, and I'll stay true to my word on it, that the public know that a study commission can, after the commission has studied the Home Rule Charter and the way the Luzerne County is governed, that they have the option of doing away with the Home Rule Charter. And my position is, I appreciate the Home Rule Charter and it holds council members accountable. The transparency is evident through the process of the examining of the budget, line item for line item. Or for instance, Councilman Thornton just mentioning in respect to the Sunshine Law, there was just the issue that the rescheduling of a meeting had to take place because the proper information wasn't printed in the newspaper, and it had to be rescheduled for a week later. These are things that the Home Rule Charter holds a council accountable for. Home Rule Charter has also helped lowering the debt that was accumulated under the three commission era. By my observation, 70 to 75% of it is working, and it's to find favor of ending it. The Home Rule Charter seems to me to be like kicking the proverbial can down the road. Also, under the Home Rule Charter, our credit rating is in good standing. So I understand, I feel what everybody's feeling, that everybody seems to think that the Home Rule the Home Rule Charter isn't working for us. But guess what? There's a lot of brokenness in our government locally and on the federal level. It's my position that if it's 75% is working, let's try to iron it out within the council itself, create some kind of a body that can examine those shortfalls that it has. That's my viewpoint. Thank you.
Mr. Knott. Mr. Griffith?
Good evening. I have two items on the agenda. The first one is the motion to adopt a resolution appointing member to Luzerne County Manager Search Committee. I sat through the interviews last week when we was doing the interviews for the 9 applicants, and I think the applicant list was very, very good. There were a couple that stood out as better qualified than others I scored as I sat here. And of course, the one that came to mind was former Councilman Hauk and councilperson Harry Hawes. Very qualified applicants for the positions. We all have watched those folks in action for the past 12 years or so as they sat on the council and did many things, many tasks, from drafting an administrative code to personnel codes and things of that nature, and their ability to get the job done is second to none in my estimation, sitting here for the last 10 or 12 years watching that process. The third applicant, Bob Fisher, I think is a good applicant, as well as Danielle Adler. I think Danielle Adler has obviously got great qualifications as somebody who does high executive searches for executive branch people. So certainly couldn't go wrong with any of those 4 in my estimation. The third item, the number 3 item, is about the study commission. The problem with the study commission question is there are some things that need to be fixed in the charter, no question about it. Home rule government is a better form of government. That's why I fought to have it put in here. Commissioners voted to put the charter question on the ballot, and at the risk of losing their jobs. We can't say that the Charter Study Commission is going to get rid of home rule. That's a decision of the people. But the question needs to be put on there because there's structural problems in this charter that need to be corrected that we can't correct by ordinance of council. Mr. DeLuca sat here and said that back last February. That if you want to change structural items, that can't be done by ordinance of council. That has to be done by a study commission. So it's important to trust people from this county to be on a study commission to do the right thing for this government. I don't think for a second that there's a single person in this county that would be on a study commission that would vote to go back to the commissioner form of government, knowing the pitfalls that we had with 500 million in debt and all the problems that we had. However, I do think there's people in the county that would sit on that study commission and say, maybe Council of 11 is too big. Maybe a manager who is appointed isn't the right way. Maybe there's certain things in that charter that need to be changed structurally, that need to be fixed. And so it's really important that we give the people the opportunity to form a study commission and trust that. We can't say 7 people are going to abolish home rule. That's just folly to even think that. We don't even know who the 7 people would be on the commission. So how could you determine that they're going to get rid of home rule? And I don't think they would do that. So I strongly suggest that this council approve the ordinance, put a study commission to fix the structural damage that's in this charter. Thank you.
Thank you, Controller Griffith. Mr. Griffin?
Council, citizens, Greg Griffin, Swarsville. Definitely, I don't think any harm could come of having a study commission look underneath the hood of the home rule system. the charter and whatnot. Let them look under the hood, see if there are adjustments need to be made. A lot of citizens are dissatisfied with home rule. Many of them have said we need to go back to the 3-commissioner system. I don't agree, but let the study commission look it over, see if there's refinements that need to be made. A lot of citizens are not happy. Also, with the executive sessions need to be more transparent. Great comments by Councilman Thornton. It's the taxpayers' money when you settle a lawsuit in executive sessions. Now, you don't have to go into specifics to embarrass anyone or any lawsuits, but we need to be more transparent in executive sessions because the decisions being made in executive sessions is the taxpayers' money. And to come out here and tell the taxpayers, we're not telling you any more than a settlement has been made or this, blah, blah, blah.
Mr. Griffin, try to stick to an agenda item if you.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
all right, that's fine.
That could be
Thank
done.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Amy Bezek. It does say grant for Amy Bezek photography. It's on an agenda item, right? This comment?
Well, that's why I'm not sure. Are we allowed to represent ourselves or?
This is agenda items only, so only the items on the voting session agenda.
PGRP grant is on the agenda.
It's on the work session.
It'll be later.
Oh, so like after, then I'll speak after.
Okay.
Oh, cool. Thank you very much.
And it's
Positive energy.
That's right.
It's 2 different.
Are you on, you're on the Government Study Commission?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Sorrow.
thank you, County Council. Alyssa Fusaro, Luzerne Borough. I think that this study commission, I'd like to speak on number 3, the study commission, and I think it's extremely important. With my own experience, noticing that the laws are contradictory. You have several parts of the charter that go against state law, and then you have other issues with the administrative code going against state law. And it has created a challenge for me personally in my role as a member of the Luzerne County Board of Elections and Registration. I've noticed that there have been a lot of issues with these things. Whereas a state law will spell out certain duties and responsibilities, then the charter or the administrative code will go ahead and take those responsibilities and duties away or divvy them out to other people. And it gets very messy and dirty. And by doing even just a study commission, I think it allows for everybody to take a look at this and really pull it apart piece by piece and determine what is best for us as a county, whether it's keeping the council and the current county structure the way it is right now, or abandoning that and doing something different, maybe doing something smaller, whatever it is. I think it's extremely important, imperative that we make some necessary changes right now so that we can be effective in our roles. Because right now it feels like we're constantly banging our head against the wall trying to get things done and not being able to. And it becomes messy and bureaucratic. And I think everybody would agree with that. We need to fix what we have or try something different. And the only way we're going to do that is through this commission. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next one is John Cadora, but doesn't mark, is it an agenda item?
It's about this study.
Sure, go ahead.
I'll be real brief because it's like a direct question. My name is John Cordora. I'm from Luzerne Borough. It's not the question that I have about the study commission in itself. Who appoints the study commission? Can someone answer me?
They're elected by the voters.
They're elected by the voters, and it's going to be put on the ballot. And and what election cycle would that be put in?
Hopefully May,
This coming May, it would be put on?
hopefully.
Hopefully.
There's a strict time schedule. leading up to
Okay.
that.
So, okay, but it would be put on the ballot and they'd have the choice to go with the 3-person commissioner or the home rule.
No, they would elect,
The study commission
They would elect
has responsibility to look at government
to,
the way it
in
is.
general, but would
The
that be,
home rule
right, but would that be, would home rule be one of those items that would be in, under their
They
auspices?
can come back with anything.
Okay, they could come back with anything.
Yeah. They could say, we want all the row offices back.
And just one more question. How do these people get on the ballot? To be,
They
to-
can file a petition like
to-
anybody else is on
but
the
they're
ballot.
not appointed by any
No, it's
politician,
petitions, just like an
just
election.
like running for any office. Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify, because certain people that talked to me, I said, wasn't sure. I was dealing with politics for years. I wasn't sure of the answer. And they said, go over and ask them, and I'm satisfied with that answer, but I didn't want to see a group of politicians appoint that study commission. Just like we have this thing going on in Washington where you have a president appointing a special prosecutor, and then there's questionable ties to why they're there. You know, that's what I was asking. Okay, that answered my question.
All right,
Thank you.
Mr. Fedoro. Any other members of the public that have comments on agenda items only? Anybody on?
Joe Grantee, Swayersville, or I'm sorry, Plains. I'd like to see if there's any follow-up on the investigation into the security on the election block.
This is
The
just
voting
on,
boxes?
this is agenda items only, so just our three items on the voting session agenda.
Would I be able to ask if there's ballots, printer ink tested and paper?
No, it's litigation with Judicial Watch, the County Manager Search Committee, or the ballot question for the study commission.
Will there be an opportunity to ask these questions?
Yeah, there's a public comment at the end of the meeting on non-agenda items.
Okay, thank you.
Any other members of the public on those three agenda items only? I don't see anybody with their hand up on Zoom. All right, so move on, motion to approve the minutes of the January
Motion to
3rd.
approve the minutes as presented.
second.
have to make it. Mr. Swets was not present at that meeting.
Sure, so we have an amendment. Mr. McGinley, do you still make that motion with the amendment?
With the amendment, please. Second.
All in favor with the amendment?
Aye.
Absent? Opposed?
No.
Minutes are adopted. All right, moving on. Agenda items under the county manager, motion to adopt resolution approving the settlement of pending litigation in the matter of Judicial Watch Incorporated versus Luzerne County.
Motion. So moved. Second.
Second, Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Venus?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo? Ms. McDermott? Yes. Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes,
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Ms. Radel?
Yes.
Unanimous.
John, you did say yes, right? You cut out a little.
I did. Can you guys hear me okay?
Now we could, yeah. Sorry. I just
Okay,
wanted to-
sorry. I maybe I wasn't speaking up loud enough. I apologize.
No, that's good. Okay, so for number 2, we have a motion to adopt resolution appointing a member to Luzerne County Manager Search Committee. We have 3 appointments. Do we have a motion to open nominations? We have a motion and a second to open nominations. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions, opposed, nominations are open.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to
Nominate Danielle Adder. Second.
Madam Chair,
Any other nominations? Yes,
I'd like to nominate Charles Chandra.
Madam Chair,
wait, does that have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, Carl beat you, but Mr. Mitchell, did you have a?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Dave Fusco.
Dave Fusco?
Second. Hard to hear.
Any other nominations?
yes, I'd like to nominate Robert Fisher.
Second.
Any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Mrs. Linda Howe.
Who's that?
Linda Howe.
Second.
First by Lee, second by Karen. Sorry for using your first name, since it's faster. Any other nominations?
Nominate Harry Haas.
Is there a second? Nomination fails, lack of a second. Do you have a motion to close nominations?
Motion to close nominations.
Second.
All in favor of closing nominations?
Aye.
Abstentions closed. All right, nominations are closed. Okay, so council. We have Ader, Chandra, Fusco, Fisher, and Howe. So we have 5 nominees. We're gonna go through roll call until they reach a majority. We're gonna go one seat at a time. The council, like, use your judgment. So if you see that one of your nominees has already got 3 votes, don't vote for your second nominee during that round, if that makes sense. Can't tell you what to do, just advising. So that we could try to reach a majority in the easiest way possible. Okay. Roll call on the first nominee.
Who is?
No,
No.
you just give your pick.
Mr. Liscavige,
Dave Fusco.
Mr. Lombardo,
Dave Fusco.
Ms. McDermott,
Danielle Ader.
Mr. McGinley,
Danielle Ader.
Mr. Mitchell,
Dave Fusco.
Mr. Perry,
Danielle Ader.
Mr. Thornton,
Mr. Fusco.
Mr. Urban,
Ader.
Mr. Wilovich,
Mr. Fusco.
Mr. Venus,
Mr. Fusco.
Ms. Radel.
Mr. Fusco. All right, so Fusco got 7, right? So he'll be the first on the committee.
Got 7 or 6.
He got 7.
7.
7, thank you.
We do the resolution now on the.
We'll do the resolution. All right, so your second nominee, roll call on that. So now, just to reiterate, you have Ader, Chandra, Fisher, Howe. Hold on, 'cause I want to keep track. Go ahead.
Mr. Lombardo,
Mr. Chandra.
Ms. McDermott,
Danielle Ader.
Mr. McGinley,
Danielle Ader.
Mr. Mitchell,
Mr. Chandra.
Mr. Perry,
Danielle Ader.
Mr. Thornton,
Ms. Hauk.
Mr. Urban,
How?
Mr. Wilovich,
Ms. Ader.
Mr. Venus,
Miss Ader.
Mr. Liscavige,
Miss Ader.
Ms. Radel.
Miss Ader. So now she has, Miss Danielle Ader has 7, so it's Fusco and Ader already have the nominations. So left we have Chandra, Fisher, and Howe. Roll call again.
Ms. McDermott,
Howe.
Mr. McGinley,
Chandra.
Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Mitchell,
Mr. Chandra.
Chandra.
Mr. Perry,
Chandra.
Mr. Thornton,
Ms. Hauk.
Mr. Urban,
How?
Mr. Wilovich,
Mr. Chandra.
Mr. Venus,
Mr. Chandra.
Mr. Liscavige,
Hauk.
Mr. Lombardo,
Mr. Chandra.
Ms. Radel.
Chandra.
7.
7 for Chandra. So we have Fusco, Ader, and Chandra. We have to do a resolution for each. So motion to adopt the resolution appointing Mr. Fusco.
Motion.
Second.
Thornton.
Roll call.
Mr. McGinley,
Yes.
excuse me. Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich,
Yes.
Mr. Venus,
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige,
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo,
Yes.
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right, motion passes. Motion to adopt resolution appointing Miss Ader.
Motion Venus. Second.
Second.
Oh.
I got it. Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich,
Yes.
Mr. Venus,
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige,
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo,
Yes.
Ms. McDermott? Yes. Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Ms. Radel?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Motion passes. Motion to adopt resolution appointing
Motion.
Mr. Chandra.
Motion.
To make
Second.
a motion, Mr. Thornton made a second. Roll call.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Abstain, his son just started at US Foods.
Mr. Lovett?
Yes.
Mr. Venus?
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Radel?
Yes.
Unanimous.
One abstention.
Excuse me. With 10 to with one abstention.
Okay, motion passes. Motion to introduce ordinance placing a government study commission question on the May 16, 2023 primary municipal election ballot and designating the number of members to serve on said committee.
So move.
Second.
Roll call.
Designated 7 too, right?
The 7 is, yeah, the 7's in there.
Mr. Perry?
No.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Lovett?
No.
Mr. Venus?
No.
Mr. LaScavitch?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
No.
Ms. McDermott? No. Mr. McGinley?
No.
Mr. Mitchell?
No.
Ms. Radel?
Yes. For the introduction.
It's introduced or consent.
Ordinance is introduced. Okay, we now have public comment on non-agenda items. Amy, be back.
I allowed to speak in reference to the grant.
Not specifically to your grant, no.
Can I speak in reference to my business then?
So you cannot lobby on behalf of your application.
Okay, can I speak on behalf of all small businesses? Okay, cool, because that's what I plan on doing. My intentions were a little different, but you guys threw me a curveball, so let me bring up the other one that I wrote. Okay, are you ready with the clock? Hold on. Okay, here we go. Why buy local? Job creation. Small local businesses are the largest employers nationally and create 2 out of every 3 new jobs. The Small Business Act defines a small business as one that is independently owned and operated and which is not dominant in its field of operation. Small businesses employ more than 52% of the nation's employees. It keeps money in the community. When dollars are spent locally, they can in turn be respent locally, raising the overall level of economic activity, paying more salaries, and building the local tax base. This recirculating of money leads to an increase of economic activity with a degree of expanse entirely dependent on the percentage of money spent locally. It keeps the community unique. Spending money with local retails helps keep the local community alive. The places where we eat, shop, and have fun all have the potential to make a community feel like a home. One-of-a-kind businesses like, I'm not allowed to mention, we're a fundamental part of the distinctive character and of a community. A community where large chains of shops exceeds the number of independently run small businesses becomes less personal and homogenized with less product diversity. Reducing environmental impacts, reducing the amount of materials and products that are brought from national retail chains helps reduce your ecological footprint. Locally owned businesses can make more purchases requiring less transportation and generally operate from within city centers, opposed to developing on the outskirts of a city. More commercial districts result in fewer vehicle miles traveled and leads to less sprawl. Less transportation also means less traffic congestion, which also has the potential to reduce the amount of fuel emissions that contributes to air pollution. This generally means contributing to less sprawl, congestion, wildlife, habitat loss, and pollution. Better customer service and save tax dollars, locals use less public infrastructure. According to the SBA, 1.5 million jobs are created by small companies each year and account for 64% of new jobs in the US, according to SBA statistics. It shows that an integral part of the US economy and growth has come from small businesses. Did you know that 42% of all US businesses are owned by women? Women started 1,821 net new businesses every day last year. Please consider me, but I wasn't supposed to say that. So thank you. Have a blessed day.
Thank you, Ms. Beasley.
Namaste.
Mr. Griffin? Did you have an agenda item?
Council, citizens, Greg Griffin. We've had good news on Blytheburn Road up there by Mountaintop off Church. I and another citizen toured it yesterday. We measured 10 potholes, 5, 6, 8 inches deep with a ruler. The good news is Greg Kurtz is responding well to Fix Our Roads Luzerne County group, which I belong to. Apparently today, the road department was up there starting to fill in these potholes today, and possibly tomorrow they'll be finished, which is good news. These potholes have existed for 6 to 10 months, and it's terrible. I mean, there are other roads, and we have to keep working for solutions. We have to find out when the infrastructure money is coming and how much. There's people ruining their tires and rims every day. But hopefully Blytheburn is going to be addressed. I asked Mr. Plesh, Larry Plesh, to put a sign up on each side of Blytheburn Road. It's 4 miles, rough road ahead signs. Look, if the people want to do 50 mile an hour and hit a pothole, that's on them. Okay. But we have to at least warn them as the county that, hey, there's rough roads ahead, slow down. Even this asphalt may not last. I think there's a winter asphalt you could buy, but it's more expensive. But in the spring, hopefully with the infrastructure money, Blytheburn can be put to bed. It's a terrible, terrible 4 miles. It was incredible yesterday. And these senior citizens and rainy and foggy nights, they would drive right into these holes, and I would drive right in the hole. In the daylight, you have to swerve. The school buses and everything on there. So thank you, county. Thank Greg Kurtz, and hopefully we can get some rough road signs up there as the asphalt breaks down during the winter. So, the transparency is important with the county manager and Mr. Kurtz and whatnot to the citizens. So, I mean, we're not here as complainers or to always cause trouble. But, when people are running their front ends and their rims and the tires and tie rods, and the roads are persisting in bad damage, deteriorating, it does get frustrating. So we have to work very closely on this infrastructure money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Mr. Griffin? Sorry.
First of all, I'd like to hope that council will give a search committee a strict timeline to get this manager search committee done. I think we have 3 very qualified people picked for this committee. And I think it's really important that the council stress to them the importance of getting the job done. Drag it out, appropriate the funds that they need to get their work done, and move that process along as quickly as possible. So we're not waiting 6-9 months to get that done. So I think that's really important. I don't anticipate that, but I think with a little maybe arm twisted from council, we can move that along. That'd be helpful for the good of the cause. A little bit disappointed in the vote for the charter amendment introduction. It just introduced the ordinance, didn't do anything other than that. And I hope the people that are watching paid close attention to the folks that voted no for just introducing it, so there could be a discussion at least at the next meeting. The same people that voted no for the study commission are the same people that raised your taxes. They're also running for election. Pay close attention. As the commercial says, choose carefully. If we are not going to be open enough with the people to get them to choose their own government, how are we going to be open enough to trust them for your vote? You're going to all ask them for a vote. You're going to all ask them, hey, I need your vote to get elected to county council. But the same people voted to take their voice away by not at least introducing it and having an open and frank discussion about putting it on the ballot. All it did was introduce it, nothing more. So I just hope that the people pay close attention to that on the video. Thank you.
Thank you, Controller Griffith. Mr. Knapp, you also have a non-agenda email, so if you speak, we won't read the email.
I appreciate that,
Sure.
Madam Chair. This is in regards to ARP funding, and I suspect my name is Ron Knapp from Nanticoke, the Booth Associates on the call right now. Can I get a response?
They're not on the agenda till the work session.
Until the work session? Well, I was wondering if council had forwarded the email that I had sent to you to Boot to get some kind of verification on with regards to the property owners receiving back pay for paying for the stormwater fee. I brought this up at two previous meetings, and I feel absolutely positive that the insurance money, the ARP money, is for not only businesses and nonprofits, but for homeowners and property owners. It would have been great if you had asked their opinion on that. The Booth, with regards to a repayment for 2 years or approximately for them being forced into their homes. Remember, it's an unfunded federally mandated fee by the federal government. At the same time, Governor Wolf is remanding people to their houses, and the stimulus checks that they received, those stimulus checks were for basic items. So Booth and Associates, they're not made aware of this request. Well, that just goes to show you how my personal opinion and observation is that you're looking out for the special interest groups when you should be going to bat for homeowners and property owners who were affected with their resources in their houses. And you know, they had to get by on what they had, better known as the rain tax. We have nothing against Wyoming Valley Sanitary Authority. I'm sure that the state and the federal government's gonna sufficely give them resources as they applied, and also see that they applied. Manager Sweat's an article, they're asking for 10 million for sewage and stormwater upgrades. It is my position that council should work and go to bat for homeowners, because the bottom line is they're hurting right now. And that would be helpful if there would be funds appropriated for
Sure.
those households.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, can I just make a general statement?
Sure.
I read through the American Recovery Plan a couple times over the past year. And I think a lot of people don't understand when money is appropriated through an act, there's very specific caveats and provisions that must be followed in the act. I couldn't find anywhere where this council could reimburse fees going back to the public as far as fees that they paid in the past couple of years. The act does specifically say, though, the money should be allocated to those groups in the population that were disproportionately affected. And they name specific examples through the increase of alcoholism, drug addiction, domestic abuse, and other matters. The act also says the money should be allocated to promote the projects that would improve the safety and health and welfare of the public. And there's a couple other provisions in there that they describe. So I just, and I'm not just addressing Mr. Knapp there, I'm addressing a lot of the emails we get continuously every day where people falsely imply or assume or directly allege that we're doling this money out to huge bureaucracies, which I've seen over and over, same wordage in many emails, huge bureaucracies, which tells me that these people are collaborating on their emails. But that's simply not the case. I think more will be specifically revealed tonight if everybody sticks around for the work session. Thank you.
Thank you. Jenna Casaldi.
Hi, thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. I'm Jenna Casaldi. I'm president of the Street Art Society. I'm part of an organization that goes toward, improving the health and well-being of our residents by contributing to community revitalization projects. And I just want to say that in context of the grant, I think the council should consider arts organizations and beautification.
Do you have an application
projects.
in?
We do have an application, but I don't want to speak specifically to that if I'm not allowed to.
Yeah, we don't want to speak on behalf of that.
Yeah. So I just want to say in general, like you guys have seen what has happened to downtown Pittston. And we remember how run down everything was, and then they started adding public artworks, and it really like brought the area up. It made people feel safer walking downtown. It brought new businesses, just made the area a lot more attractive. And I think, there's something to be said about supporting that stuff in our area as well. It's just a little bit of money toward some paint on the wall. It's very cost effective toward making those improvements. So, I just wanted to say that I know a lot of times people consider the very practical things like improving roads, and that stuff is important too, but also balancing that with, just giving our area those things that help to bring it into the future. Or even when we walked into this building today, you guys noticed the beautiful artwork that's everywhere. I mean, that was something that was thought about by our ancestors, and really, it helps us to feel good about the area that we live in. So, just making sure that we take the responsibility of continuing that and supporting those types of grants and initiatives. So that's all. Thank you.
Jenna. Ms. Massaro?
By the way, Pittston is beautiful. I like it. It does look really nice. I keep hearing, we need to change this, we need to change, we need to change, we need to fix this, we need to fix that, we need to fix this. But we can't, and I get the way the vote went, but I'm disappointed with the amount of no votes on that, just to look at it. I mean, oh, sorry. I said, I'm disappointed with the amount of no votes today, because I just think that, everybody says, oh, I want to fix things. I want to fix things. I want to fix things. That's the reason you guys got on this, it's the reason I did what I did. I have no experience. I got experience now, but it's the reason I got in there. It's like, I didn't like this. I didn't like that. I didn't like this. I wanted to fix it. That's the real reason why you're here, is to make a difference. To make a difference in the lives of these people here. And if you're going to do that, if you're going to make a difference, you're going to, you really got to, things aren't working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if it's broke, and it is unbelievably broken right now, we need to fix it. We need to get together. We need to fix this. And I think that's important. So, when it comes to a vote, come on, guys. Come on, put it on the ballot. Let the people speak about it. Let them make the vote. Let them determine whether or not we need this study commission. Don't just be bureaucratic like what we're trying to fix. A commission to study the law and the way it is. That's it. That's what it is. A study. It's to study it, not to change anything right now. It's to study it and to make sure it's right and correct. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to fix it. This is your public here. We answer to them. We answer to them. And that's what we need to do. Something's broken. We got to fix it. Let's fix it.
Public that wishes to speak during public comment? Okay.
Diane Cowman, Kingston. I spoke last Tuesday, as you probably remember, and I presented you with two concerns I had regarding the ARP grant applications. And the first was a question of whether there are now 149 applications that was stated in the newspaper a few weeks ago, or 139 that booth management had cited after the deadline for submitting applications. My second concern was the suggestion of county departments being given consideration before outside applicants. And so both of these concerns remain with me today. I was told last week that there are in fact 139 applicants. And when I woke up this morning and read the newspaper, it cited 149, 139 being from outside and 10 being from internal county departments. So I'm confused. Are there 149? Are there 139? Maybe looking for some clarification there. And did those county departments have to submit applications as the outside folks did? And did they submit them by the deadline of 5 p.m. on September 15th? I admit to being a novice when it comes to both grant protocols and county procedures, but I'm experiencing what is right. And I'm just looking for some answers that this is being taken care of in the right manner. As I said last week, I respect what these departments do and their need for funding, but the outside applicants all provide a valuable service to the citizens of Luzerne County as well, and deserve to be on a level playing field for consideration. You know, as I have been attending these county council meetings the past several months, I have seen you folks as a group of people that appear to be committed to serving the citizens of Luzerne County and having their best interests in mind. And so for me, I really, truly hope that I'm just confused and can receive some clarification about my concerns. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. No applications were accepted after the deadline. So
are there 139 or 140?
So I was under the impression it was 139 plus the internal ones, and the total would be 149, but we'll get clarification because on our analysis that we'll be speaking about later, the number is lower than that total number. So we'll get clarification during the work session.
It's the first item on the work session.
Any other members of the public that wish to speak?
Thank you. Joe Grantee from Plains. Some of us citizens would like to know if we have, with the upcoming special election, if we have enough paper, printer, ink, and paper poll books.
Do you want to finish your 3 minutes and then we'll address any questions you have? Or is that all you have?
Okay. The other thing I wanted to find out is whether my concern about the security of the voting machines has been addressed and what the update is on the investigation from the district attorney.
Sure. So the investigation is ongoing, but all of the other questions that you're asking is up to, we have a Bureau of Elections and the election board, and they're responsible for those questions that you have asked.
Okay.
And they have public meetings, right?
Yes.
Regularly,
The election board.
And you can ask that directly.
Next Wednesday.
Okay. And the investigation is, can we find out for a future meeting when the investigation might wrap up? Because we have a special election coming up, and to use the same machines would be inadvisable.
We just got an update on the investigation, just that it was still ongoing. That was just from the DA this past week.
You guys had an update?
They
Because
sent us an update saying that the investigation is ongoing. Exactly what I'm telling you is what our update was.
And the district attorney was here a week ago, and he said they're literally interviewing hundreds of people using many staff in the DA office. Of course, they're very, very busy. They just had 2 homicides over the weekend
Right.
that they're dealing with. But he said it's ongoing, and his hope, I think he said, his hope was it would be finished by January 31st. He hoped. I remember hearing that or seeing it in his hands.
I'll be back.
I wanna
then.
attest to that.
I'll be back.
I either heard it or I read it.
And can I make a request? Sometimes, Ms. Radel, when you're reading, you read way too fast for me to keep up with. So if you could like slow down a little bit, I'd appreciate it.
I talk fast and read fast.
You
I
do.
apologize. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public that wish to speak? If not, I have emails. Oh, sure. Just state your name and the municipality we're in.
Desiree Edwards, Swayersville. Tonight on the news, I mean, I don't know who puts out to the news what to say when they broadcast, but I'm sure people are here tonight because on the news, it stated specifically that this meeting tonight was going to speak about, it was going to be brought up about the paper and the ballots that were missing at the election.
You got it wrong.
No, I didn't get it
No,
wrong.
No, he said the news.
News got it wrong.
Oh, yeah.
No, not you.
Oh, yeah, no, because that's what they stated.
No, it's not on our work session or our voting session.
Ms. Radel, can I answer that?
Go ahead.
Ma'am, I believe
Mr.
that,
Lombardo,
yeah, the news may have reported that, but I was told by a couple of different people that that was something that was discussed within a number of, I don't know if they were Facebook groups or whatnot, that people were intending to come here tonight to ask questions about it. So I don't know if the news maybe got a hold of it and reported it incorrectly, but I think that that might be what you're referring to. So there wasn't anything on the agenda, obviously.
That's not what I'm referring to. The news didn't mention Facebook one time.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying that they may have mistakenly reported it incorrectly.
any other members of the public that wish to speak? Not, I'm going to read through these emails. And I also just want to state for the record that sometimes I read the emails very quickly because I limit everybody that's here to 3 minutes and I get 10-page emails. So I also try to get them in to 3 minutes, just because it wouldn't be fair if I went on for 10 minutes. So I will go slow. This is from Laura Panero. Recently, a 17-year-old hit a devastating pothole on Blackburn Road. Thankfully, she is okay, but the outcome could have been so much worse. It is what scares us parents. We are charged with our children's safety. We take our jobs very seriously. Our county council and our county administration has repeatedly ignored our pleas for help. A loan for $75 million, backed by tax dollars, is being used to replace the West Nanticoke Bridge. The entire county will lose access to $3 million for 25 years for one bridge. This money could replace all 120 plus miles of county roads. Vice Chair of Luzerne County Council, John Lombardo, reprimanded us for objecting to the bridge replacement because seconds count. Seconds indeed do count. Fire, ambulance, police, and navigating the same roads that are swallowing our tires and ribs and leaving our kids vulnerable on the sides of our roads. 911 receives calls from all over the county and for many scary reasons. The ambulances are not immune to these hazards and potential consequences. Seconds count. Fire, police, and ambulance vehicles slowed down or left incapacitated on the sides of our county roads lose seconds. There are several ideas to address our county's lack of attention toward matters of public safety. We hope to bring this serious situation to the attention of any and all who can and will help. Unfortunately, after over a year and a half, enough has hardly been done to show good faith. Instead, we are forced to wait for what is coming instead of what is here. EIL funds versus ARP funds and a loan for what will cost us $75 million. Citizens will continue taking pictures and are noting locations of hazards. The evidence we have gathered and will continue to gather furthers our position and shows the disregard we suffer at the hands of our county administration. The next one is from Walter and Robin Cochan from Dallas Township. It's a new year and time for all members of Luzerne County Council to actually honor the preamble for truth, accountability, and openness and undertake a contract of public trust and integrity. To have a secret closed email portal system for deciding how to disperse the remaining $96 million in American Rescue Plan dollars does not instill public trust. This is your opportunity to become transparent and open with the public about dispersing this money, which is essentially our taxpayer money. To do otherwise leaves us to surmise your backdoor deals. We have a right to know who voted for which organizations and how much each will receive. Further, it is an affront, especially to seniors in the working poor of this county, to not give them a helping hand when they are ineligible for assistance from most other organizations, and you do have the funds to do so. This is your one opportunity to save face and actually do something for the people. Have you noticed how many citizens can barely afford to keep their homes this winter, much less afford property taxes? Or are you too far removed from the people you were elected to represent? Have a conscience, for heaven's sake, and act like you actually care about Luzerne County taxpayers. Next one is from Cindy Brannon. Wright Township, Madam Chair, please read slowly and loudly so that everyone can hear. That's the second one. Okay. Dear council members, I'm writing to find out how council is fighting for bipartisan infrastructure loan funds and making certain Luzerne County and her residents are getting every penny possible. Where can we find a report of the work you are doing to fight for all of us? When can we expect updates and at what time intervals? I would also like to see each council member's comprehensive plan regarding the anticipated funds. What roads are planned for complete replacement? What projects and expected costs have been requested from our county engineer, Larry Flesh? What years of each of the projects planned for completion? Will all 120 plus miles of county roads be replaced, lines painted, new guardrails installed, vegetation and trees trimmed, and ditches and drainage issues addressed? Finally, will all litter and dumping along our county roads be clear to monitor, to apprehend and prosecute perpetrators? Will you be placing an increase of penalties for litter and dumping along our county roadways on your agenda? When will each of you promise to raise penalties to significant community service retrieving litter and dumping remnants? Can VIL funds be used for surveillance of our roads to stop this disgusting practice of using our county as a trash receptacle and dumping field? Now is the time to fight for most funds possible for Luzerne County. Please tell each of us what you are doing to represent us in this fight. How much will we get? On what projects will these funds be used? And when are the projects set to begin and anticipated to be complete? We need safe and clean roads. We need safe and clean roads. We deserve safe and clean roads. We welcome visitors and hope they return to our county. Luzerne County has such potential and such a beautiful landscape. Please fight to repair and replace her roads and cleaner landscape. Tell us in detail your plans regarding the bipartisan infrastructure. Okay, if there's no one else. Mr. Irvin.
I actually want to say a couple words. I want to thank my colleagues for actually the ones that did vote to introduce the ordinance that I had proposed with the Government Study Commission ordinance. I think it's very important that we allow the people to decide. We put it on the ballot. You know, less than a dozen years, or about a dozen years ago, the commissioners voted to allow individuals to serve on that Government Study Commission at the time to study the government. There were many inexperienced people from the public that actually gave us this charter that we have today. Since working with this charter, you know, this is my second time around, second 4 years serving on county council. We know there are deficiencies in this charter. We know there's deficiencies in the admin code. They need to be corrected, and they have to be corrected probably more so in mass than piecemeal. There's no way that if we can't even simply vote on an ordinance to put it on the ballot to allow us as county council to have our own solicitor. I mean, what makes you really think that this council or any future council, if you don't have friendly individuals on county council, you'll never probably get ordinances on the ballot to change the charter as it is. You know, you have people that were inexperienced that actually wrote this charter to begin with. My father was a commissioner back in the day. He knew that probably putting the question on the ballot was going to cause him to lose his job at that time. But he did so because he believed that the public has a right to speak. This is your government. This is the people's government, especially in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, where you're allowed to set up your own government. And I am disappointed in a lot of my Republican colleagues for not allowing the discussion to continue. You know, it's unfortunate, and I consider all of your friends. I mean, I had a good conversation last night with a potential candidate running for Superior Court judge who teaches at Widener University. And he teaches law. He specializes in election law. I mean, that's something I've immersed myself quite honestly lately, in the last actually couple of years, really, immersed myself deeply into it because we have problems with our basic foundation of just having full faith and confidence and trust in our own system on how we get elected. I don't know about you. I mean, I know, Carl, you're running for reelection. Leanne, you are. Myself, I don't even have confidence in my own reelection process this year in this county, knowing that we've had 2 years worth of problems. You know, and it's unfortunate. The attorney that I spoke with last night, you know, when I told him that our charter has reverse age discrimination built into it with one of the provisions where, you know, you could be 18 years old and run for a mayor or for this particular public office, but you can't serve on our election board until you're 23 because our charter says you must be a member of your political party for at least 5 years prior. So that means anybody that turns 18, you have to register to vote. You can't serve on our Board of Elections till the earliest, till your 23rd birthday. But you can go to war and fight for this country. I mean, what kind of charter is this, really? So that's definitely an issue. You know, and quite honestly, if everybody changed their registration today or tomorrow, it says no one would actually qualify to serve on our Board of Elections because you have to be a member of your party for 4 years and you can't change during that time period. But if everybody hypothetically changed, no one would qualify. No one. So there are, you know, provisions in the charter that are completely broken. Acting county manager, when we have an acting county manager like Mr. Sweats, I believe that the acting county manager provision, if my interpretation is that we can go outside of the county and hire whoever we want. But some people's interpretation, like the Office of Law, says that we have to hire from within. Well, what happens if we feel that we don't have a qualified individual in the 1,400 people that work here? County council should have that ability to go outside of the box and get the best and the brightest to be an acting manager. Not necessarily anybody that's here, because what happens if they all turn it down? We're stuck. You know, so that's a second provision. Looking, you know, going back to the election law and the admin code, like I said, I am going to be addressing some of that. I have redlined a lot of the administrative code when it comes to elections. I'm in the process of finalizing that so I can get it over to legal review. But there are things that we did as council that steps on the Board of Elections toes. And I've had a conversation with the chair this past week about that as well. And she's afraid she doesn't have a spine because she's afraid that she might get removed from public office. You know,
Did you specify chair of the election board?
chair of the election board.
Thank you.
Yes.
Everybody looked at me and like,
Yeah.
"That's not me."
Not council. And you know, the law is actually really the only people that can actually remove a person that's appointed are the actual appointing body. Well, we aren't the appointing body for their chair because our charter is pretty clear that, you know, we appoint the 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. Between the 4 of them as a majority, they pick their chair. Legally, we as county council do not have that right to remove anybody from that type of office. If we don't appoint them, we can't remove them. That'd be no different than us taking out the mayor of Wilkes-Barre or taking out the mayor of Pittston or whoever, just like we try to take out the DA. You know, they're elected to a public office. There's common law. Go back and read it. And I think all the attorneys know what quo warranto means. They should, or they should go back to school and get some continuous education. But that's the only true process on removing, you know, somebody that has a right to title. And that action has to be either initiated by a DA or an attorney general's office. So, you know, there are many deficiencies that we need to fix. We've worked with them, we've muddled through them. You know, why talk about them? Let's fix them. I mean, we're here to provide solutions. And you know, this is my second time here on council, dealing with some of the headaches of the language. And you know, it's either put up or shut up. And I've put it up there for the people and the public to speak. And I think with your support as public, I hope you apply pressure to my colleagues to actually get an honest discussion about the changes, because it's about studying this government, fixing this government. I was not a proponent of home rule, I'll be honest with you, not a proponent of home rule when it first began, but there are some good qualities about it. You know, I think we've had open discussions. I think some of the ways, you know, I don't think we need to necessarily go back to row officers, you know, because I think, you know, the way the clerk of courts and the prothonotary, the judicial records, I think should be combined. So there are certain aspects that work well, but then there's also certain aspects that behind the scenes are really a travesty. And getting back to boards, you know, we appoint all the people on authorities, boards, and commissions. You know, LCC is a board. We put the membership of those members on that board. We don't tell the college what to do or how to run their school. No different than we don't tell the arena what to do. We don't tell the redevelopment authority what to do. We don't tell LCTA what to do. They have executive directors. But for some reason that the Board of Elections is the only group of people that don't have the autonomy under the law that they deserve. And what I want to see is they get their rightful power back, because they are a quasi-judicial board under the law. They have the power to subpoena. They have the power to investigate. We as county council don't have the power to choose, unfortunately, Jen, you as their clerk. Because if they, under law, decided to exercise their right under Title 25 to pick their own clerk, now you have a conflict. Which one is the rightful clerk? Is it the one that we chose by ordinance or the one they pick? So, these are the questions that we need to get answers and seek answers for. We need to fix. And I think, hopefully we have some honest discussions about this because it really needs to be fixed. I mean, Carl, you're an attorney. The last thing you need is a gray area, right?
So I was gonna ask, who's the Widener professor? It's where I graduated from. Who's the Widener?
I'll tell you
professor?
after. I'll tell you afterwards because I asked him, I said, please come up here and give some remedial training. He's written books on election law and is an expert in it. Believe it or not, when I was on the phone call, I was embarrassed because he said, look, with the paper debacle, they were talking about it in his classroom. In his classroom. Well, I know it's the whole country, but it's kind of what not to do. And we don't want to be that example. I said, I'm tired of the black guys.
Come on to a dissertation.
Thanks. I'm very tired of the black guys in Luzerne County. I think we can fix them up. And I think, quite honestly, we need an honest discussion. We're not here to create animosity. And if it's because that I introduced it, you don't want to give me a win, that's fine. But let's have an open, honest discussion about this going forward.
Yes.
So Steve, you and I agree far more than we don't. So
Right,
it has nothing to do with that last thing, my vote. So, and again, I'll bring this up more next week. It has gotten through, we got through a discussion. But again, there were a lot of good points raised from a lot of people I respect, Controller Griffith out there, because he stated that, he didn't believe that the Government Study Commission would go back to the old form. But my concern is we don't know anything for certain. There's the same chance that they go back to the 3 commissioner as that they don't. We don't know who the 7 individuals would be who serve on the study commission. It could be anybody. It could go any direction. And I always say, I prefer not to fly because I don't fly the plane or know the pilot. So, I mean, it's the same thing here. I think we should all get to work. I think we should all meet. We should come up with amendments and we should pass them. One of them being your amendment, that we have our own attorney. So I think that's good. I think we need to revisit it. So my concern is I don't want to do nothing, but I don't want to throw the whole system out. So if we get to work, we come up with some good amendments, we put them on the ballot for the people. And I intend on doing that. I've already discussed this with several other council members. I plan on meeting with those other council members. I plan on submitting amendments within the next 3 weeks to get on as soon as possible on the ballot. But it's not so much my concern. I do get that there are portions of this charter that are broken, but I thought Mr. Knapp was very good in his opening remarks. He said 75% of this is working. So why risk throwing the whole thing out? Let's fix the 25% that's not working. If there's a problem, let's propose an amendment. It's a different council now than when you proposed that the last time. I think that it would be a different outcome. So let's get.
Proposed it last time.
Well, I apologize. We tend to propose the
It's
last
fine.
one. So sorry about that. But that is where my head is at. I do agree with a lot of what you're saying. I'm not trying to be malicious by my vote, anything like that. And again, we'll discuss it more going forward, but that is where my head is at. I think we should do the work instead of, and if we can't do the work, then let's put it on the ballot. But we haven't even tried. I mean, I've been here 10 months. I haven't seen one amendment proposed. I think all of us want them, let's do it. So, that's
Mr.
my
Venus, I don't mean to cut you guys off, and I was gonna do the same thing to you, and it got too far. We will have it on a work session. We will allocate time to discuss it. I also have a lot of things to add, but we have a hefty work session, especially if we want to get through, make some progress with ARPA. So if we could save the.
I didn't want to say something. when I did this report.
But with all due respect, I
Thanks,
just want to
Charlie.
respect.
Okay.
The people who put the charter together, I'm probably a little guy, so I remember those things. They work very hard. We have very good consultants. They make errors, probably. They try to do the right thing, definitely. And as far as what Ms. Rodriguez talked about with amendments, we've had 2 amendments that have been on the ballot in 11 years. So we have not done our part as council members. We all know there's certain areas that need to be revised, need to be looked at, and we could do that. So let's make sure we're doing the right thing. Number one, let's make sure we try to correct the things that can be corrected. We'll move forward. And if it doesn't work out, you can have the last step, which is say,
We have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions, opposed, Carl, would you second anything? Guys, we will start at 7:13. Let's start the work session at 7:20. Turn your mics off. Yes, hold on, let me turn my mic up.
I'll pass it down.
Sometimes I'm like trying to do all
Yeah,
the
I can do that.
texting in the meantime. All right, guys, it's 7:24. We're gonna call the work session to order. We already did the pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence, so roll call, please. Mr. Venus.
Present.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Here.
Mr. Lombardo. Mr. Lombardo. Ms. McDermott. Here. Mr. McGinley.
Present.
Mr. Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Perry.
Here.
Mr. Thornton.
Here.
Mr. Urban.
Here.
Mr. Willoughby.
Here.
And one more call for Mr. Lombardo. Okay. Ms. Radel. Here. Okay, for the agenda, I am going to delete number 3. That was brought up by Mr. Lombardo, but since he's spotty, we're gonna remove that and we'll talk about it another time. It was just an additional topic that he wanted to discuss, and we can talk about it at the next work session. Okay, so with the removal of number 3, do we have a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Opposed?
Ms. Radel, if we can for the next meeting, not for this meeting, this evening. I think it's a good idea if we have the search committee members meet with council so we can talk about the process and hopefully offer some recommendations.
Yeah, and I have a timeline for the next work session, so that could tie into.
Yeah, could you add it or whatever, please?
Let me make a note, that's the next one. All right, the first thing we have is an update from Booth. Mr. Sweat, did you want to?
Good evening.
Yeah, she's good.
Okay.
She's on.
Yeah, I just had to wait for them to unmute me. Good evening. I'm gonna share my screen now. And we'll just get right to it. So thank you all, first of all, the council, you all you were patient. You also, I know that this was extremely time consuming, and I just want to say that you all did a great job of providing information. I put on the wrong screen, I'm sorry. Providing information and being responsive. Let me get, of course I go. Okay, it's on the wrong screen. Bring this over. Okay, so just a brief update. When we looked at the scoring, one of the first things I kind of want to go over with you all is that the average scores, when you see that the available scores and what you actually scored, these are the averages per the questions. And I just want to reiterate, they knew all the evaluation factors when they did the applications. So each applicant could have addressed and should have attempted to address each of the evaluation factors, but the average scores for the NOFO applications was 37 total score, and then the internal projects. I heard in some of your open discussion, the NOFO applications are a separate pool from the internal projects. The council agreed that up to 60 million for the NOFO applications, that's one pot of funds. There's an entirely separate pot that has always been a part of the ARPA plan for the internal projects. So they are not being evaluated and awarded in the same pool of dollars. Another question was, did they have to do an application? Absolutely. They did the exact same application that the NOFO applications did. It was just different deadlines, but they had a different deadline, but they went through the same process. So I know that there was some confusion, and when I pull up this next slide, it's going to get not really confusing. It was actually 141 applications. You might recall in prior meetings, 2 applicants did not provide the requested information for us to evaluate, so they were eliminated. So it was 139 applicants for the NOFO pool. There is 10 applicants for the internal projects, but that's totally different potential funding. So you're not in competition for the same funding. So when we looked at the total scores, and because the score was so low, and the council's resolution, we had looked at 70%, only 5 of the applications reached that threshold of 70%. And of those 5, this shows you of the 5, the dollar amount, the bucket. There were certain projects that we recommended were ineligible based on the determination of the eligible activity. So we actually excluded them. Because to the extent that a project isn't eligible, the determination would be whether the council would want it to be funded under the revenue loss. And that's an entirely different conversation. And I know at this point in this presentation, we're not talking about revenue loss. So what we did here was we looked at the average scores, and you saw the scores. So we took them as, did I have a time limit?
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Oh, I heard the bell. So what we did was we took, based on the scoring, we took the percentages and kind of grouped them together. The first bracket was those that really met the eligible award score of that 70%. And those are those 5 projects. We then looked at the projects from 60% to 69.99%. And then so on and so forth. So what our recommendation is, looking at this scale, for that $60 million, and I'll ask you to focus in on this number here. This is the running total number that we were maintaining. And this, each time we're excluding any projects that are deemed eligible. The council may say, hey, even if they're deemed ineligible, we want to consider them, but these are projects that would have to be funded through revenue loss and not through this $60 million bucket. So when we got to where the score gets to your 60 million, you're talking about 75 total projects that would be potentially eligible for award. Out of the, and we're keeping 141, even though only 139 was evaluated because 2 did not respond. Okay, internal projects. Notice it's an entirely separate because it's a different pool of money. This 17 million is different from the 60 million. Of the internal projects, their scores came in a little bit higher. So basically, if the council were to approve only one in this range, it was one project that they would fall under revenue loss. That's a determination you would want to make. So you're looking at potentially funding the 17.498 million that was already kind of identified separately from the $60 million bracket that we previously talked about. So this is that same revised ARPA funding. These two were always separate. You're not competing in the same pools. So based on that, with the accounting of the approved council projects, which actually they're now signing their subrecipient agreement. So these projects will be in a position to be funded sooner rather than later. The pool for the applications, we showed an analysis what that would look like if you accept the recommendation that you just make it eligible for award in a lower percentage of the total score, because that's really the recommendation, and keep it at 75 projects. And there's still available funding for other projects, which I know that you all are currently looking at and considering. So right now, of course, it's my understanding. Oh, did somebody have a question?
Excuse me.
Yes.
Ms. Booth?
Mm-hmm.
If you take a minute and just go through those headings on those charts, because when you read those headings, it sometimes misleads you, I believe.
Okay. So
Like
you want to go
very first
back?
chart, the very first chart that had the applicants with the scores.
Okay.
I believe you said there's 5 that made the cut of 70%.
Yes, they made the cut, 70
Okay.
plus. Mhm.
And so the running total applicants was 5 because that's the number made. Now, the number requested by those 5 applications is just short of $2 million, correct?
Yes, yes.
The next line, or next column, excuse me, ineligible project amounts. So of that $1.958 $100,000, $120,000 is not eligible. Is that correct?
For one project, yes.
But you subtracted that from 1958,
Yes,
right?
yes,
So that gives you an eligible total of 1,838,651.62.
yes.
But the title says running total of ineligible amounts.
Oh, I thank you. It's oops, I'm sorry, I clicked on it. It's you're right, I'll correct that title before, when I send it back
So
to
it's
Brian.
eligible
Yes,
amounts. correct?
exactly, yes.
Thank you very much. I was thinking I was nuts.
Confused. Sorry about that.
Okay, brother.
Great
Thank you
catch.
very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Were there any other questions?
Yeah, go ahead. Mr. Shaw.
So the suggestion, and again, it's a suggestion, it's a council meeting, it's not coming from administration. The suggestion is in the yellow bucket. So every score, not to rescore, every score that is 47 or above, which as Ms. Booth said, would be 75 of the 141 applications. Over 53% would get, and that's fully funded as long as it's not lost revenue. So if it's not in that ineligible column, the fourth column, it says ineligible project amounts, you would get fully funded for your project, assuming you have the documentation for it. So can you fill out the documentation? You'd sign the grant agreement, and then as you turn the stuff into either Booth or Budget Finance or a combination of both, as you submit it, your AIA docs or your invoices, then you would get reimbursed for it. But they would be 75 of the 100, so a little more than half would actually be approved and fully approved.
I have a question. So without like going through and looking at specific projects, because we're trying to make this as unbiased as possible, which I think we've been saying all throughout. There were several organizations, agencies, businesses that applied for maybe more than one of their programs. So I'd be interested in not even just specifically like what they are, but how many of those out of those 75 applicants, how many are getting two awards?
Okay.
Yeah, 2 awards. So I think that might be something worth looking at, because possibly I think we go to them and say, hey, one or the other, just so that the money's being spread around as best as possible, rather than giving one organization 2 grants.
Or 3, some of them
Possibly
3.
three.
Could she do that? Ask her if she could do that and break that out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we can have.
Yeah, we could just.
Yeah, we
break that out.
have.
Ms. Radel, that was something that I had suggested whenever the last time we talked about this. I think instead of saying maybe, what's your choice? Tell them this is your highest rated application, whatever that might be.
Okay.
Of the number that
Okay.
they submitted. And then that would be the one that would go into the pot.
I
so
think
to
that's a great idea too.
that way they
got
have
it.
more of a chance to get
No, we
funded.
don't even, because this is all hypotheticals too, because in all seriousness, we could have had no duplicates that scored over 47%, or one
Right.
of their projects and 2 of theirs are underneath. So I think we just need to see what it looks like.
Right.
Just the duplicates.
Understood.
Ms. Booth, I have a
Yes.
question on that last slide you were talking about before we went backwards. The analysis of internal project scores. That page.
There you go.
Yeah, now, again, what Mr. McGinley pointed out, I think the same applies in that heading of that column.
Yep,
Right
I got it.
Of ineligible should say eligible, correct?
Yes. That correction will be.
And then there's 10 total projects. One of them has minus 450,000 as ineligible, which brought the eligible amount down for, I'm assuming, the one project. Or is the 450 entirely representative of one project?
Yes, it's one that's recommended ineligible projects. It's one
All right,
project.
that's why on the bottom, okay, I see 9 projects instead of 10. So the 450 one, that would be out. And we would just be looking at 9, not 10 total, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And Robin, just to clarify, anything that isn't given out, so whatever is decided, 2 weeks from now when we vote, obviously, once it's voted on, all the names will be released about the awards. But if the total isn't given, the available extra funding would fall into the available funding for additional projects. So if
Yes,
council
it would.
said they're gonna get 60 million, and 59 was awarded, that million would fall into that bottom bucket. Available funding for additional projects would go up from 17 to 18. Just with the caveat of they have to meet the qualifications. County doesn't have much lost revenue. We'd like it to fall into the bucket and go back to Booth. So you wouldn't be rescoring them. It would be a project or a couple projects for 17 or 18 million that's still available even after over 50% of the public's help, even after 9 county agencies get money. there's still $17 million available.
And I think you all had a concern that you didn't want big projects just kind of monopolizing the 60 million. So being able to award to 70 plus subrecipients, you know, kind of shows that the money was spread out.
Yeah. I agree.
So timeline wise, I'm sorry, go right ahead.
Yeah, I think you do timeline and then they can ask questions
Yeah,
after
go
that.
ahead.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's my understanding you all, your 24th, the next meeting, you'll be making your final decisions. And of course, I'll make sure I give Brian the analysis you wanted of any duplicate projects and fix the chart to stay eligible so that you can all have this information. But hopefully note as soon as we get a final, council approval resolution, it won't take us a day or two, but to turn out the notifications of award and non-award. We recommend that you send the notifications before you publish it, but we do recommend that you publish the awards on your website. But we do recommend let us get the letters out first so that somebody doesn't find out by looking on the website that they were or were not awarded. And then ultimately to get through that grant execution package and have by the end of February, people, when we do that part, they can always sign and send back their agreements earlier. But we do have to give them time for legal review, or we're doing it right now with your prior approved projects, legal review, comments, people. So we do want to make sure we're giving that kind of time. So the goal is for all of these awards, for all of the agreements to be signed and in place. And then Brian and them can start working on releasing fundings by the end of February. I will say we stuck to this timeline for the evaluation process. And once again, I commend you all on the work. And thank you for the work that it took for you all to get through 139 applications. 2 weren't scored because they didn't have the information. Are there any other questions?
I was gonna ask anywhere where we require match funding, and if it has to deal with the municipality, are we requiring them to have an attached resolution before we do anything with their funding? Because in order for them to publicly expend their funding, they have to get a vote from their council or their supervisors from a local level.
We should do that beforehand. When we talked about the application, our intent, and we don't know if everybody did the same way, was that this was what they're expecting from the county. So if I asked for 100,000 and there's a 5% match, the intent was that they would have put in 95,000. I don't know if we clarified that so there might be some wiggle room in there. But yes, if we get something from the municipality first or from the business first that says, hey, especially from the municipality, here's my match, then yeah, we can move forward. County project is easy.
Right.
We could say we're taking it from this fund and it'll go a little further and that was required. Now the first group, Ruth wasn't on board yet, that first 16 or 17 million. They were awarded by council beforehand, so they don't have a match. I did not see the package, nor did I want to, but I'm not sure everyone had a 5% match. I know we asked for it. I don't know who put yes or no.
No.
But yeah, if it's another municipality, government, sewer authorities, any kind of that has a board, they should do that first before. So we know we're getting the 5%.
Right, before we release the funding.
Mhm.
And then the other thing. Go ahead.
And that's why
Go ahead.
also we're giving them that time. That's why it's that 3-week time period, 3 to 4 for like right now, some of you, the ones that you did approve, they're getting their resolutions before they submit the packages because they can't sign the subrecipient agreement. That's the other kind of safeguard that you have in place. They can't sign the agreement unless they get it.
And there was one other issue that I had brought to everybody's attention before about a signature on one of the applicants. Which, I went out and reached out to the person that was supposed to sign it, but it wasn't the person that signed it. So, to me, that's a fraudulent application. Should that be cast aside for now?
I don't even know if it's in the 75 without seeing the list. I know which application you're talking about. I don't know if it met the score or not.
Okay.
Thank you. I want to just go deeper into this, the issue that Mr. Urban brought up. Are we absolutely intending to make sure that any of these applications that are approved that went to a municipality, that they do have a firm resolution voted on in public, and that we have that paperwork attached with the application. Do
We'll
we
make
have
that a part.
Are we
We can
confident
make-
we have that? If we don't,
We can add it to the package. to
Who's
the
gonna-
grant
Yeah, we
application
haven't-
package.
That's when we would request it. That grant execution package is a sub-recipient agreement. They certified a certain compliance with all of the regulations. They certify the clauses. So it's a package because it's more than a sub-recipient agreement. And what we'll do is add a caveat on the municipalities and similar organizations that they have to provide us with the resolution.
Yeah, I mean, any government organization too, you have to actually convey that power to the applicant to be able to sign the signature,
That's what I was,
to actually
yeah.
just submit the application to us too. Because they're an employee of that municipality or municipal body of government. Just for checks and balance sake, any employee can go and say that, hey, they're gonna apply, but did they get the approval from their actual body of government to apply before they applied?
So maybe not just the resolution, but also a resolution making them an authorized signer on behalf of the organization.
Right, because how can they sign if they're not authorized?
It's just part of one resolution.
Yeah.
So if you put that in the packet, that when we get the
I got it.
resolution from a government agency, it not only lists that where they're providing the match from, but who the authorized signer is. Or authorized position, however they do it, the
Yeah.
manager, the borough clerk, the borough manager.
Or whoever,
Joe
the
Smith.
consultant or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And so we may have to allow for additional time then for them to sign. Only because that depends on their meeting schedules and things in their process.
Yeah, we would take more time, but I think to Mr. Irvin's point, even to the public point, and some people were a year, some people were 9 months. I know you wanted the money yesterday, but if we're gonna do it, let's do it right up front and everybody's on the same playing field. So then you know what's needed, even if it holds it up 2 or 3 weeks, as long as everybody knows what they have to do.
Because they could get audited too. so.
They're going to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when are we
Madam
going
Chair?
to have?
Hold on, Leanne's talking
Go ahead.
quietly.
I didn't raise my hand, but I apologize. When are we gonna have a list of all of the applicants that are the approved?
We have it now, but it's under the assumption that you're gonna approve the 47%. And again, it's council's meeting. You could go with our assumption. You can look at the list and say, we're gonna do 45. You could say, I wanna do more, but it's gonna be half funded. The intent of the 47% was that got us as close to the 60 million as possible. And it still helps 75 people, because I know some of the questions were, 5 people are gonna get this money, 10 people, 75, so more than half are gonna get this money.
But are we gonna be able to have that before we go into a meeting?
So
Is
here's
it-
the thing, okay, so this is the way I see it. We want it, obviously council wants to see what's happening, but
Mhm.
also we don't want to start getting the list and saying, okay, well, this project is under, but we want that to be up, and I feel like that's where things get hairy, but also if we get the list for our public meeting packet, then everybody who applied is gonna know who's getting the funding before they get any kind of letter, before anything happens.
Exactly.
And that they'll know. So that's where we run into like, how much what can we do to make this as transparent as possible, but also, protect everybody from being biased and moving things around.
Well, that's a problem, but
Any
you're
takers?
gonna have to deal with it at some point.
Yeah,
I do think though, we have to decide whether we're gonna allow 2 or more applications from one group.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
personally feel that's incorrect. They should be allowed their top scoring application. And then as we go through the whole thing, if there's any money left at the end, they can submit a second or third one.
yeah. No, I agree with that, but I also think we have to, if we get the list, so if council gets the list, then I also think the public needs to get the same list. Like, I don't think it's something that we should get, because then it completely eliminates the whole, why did we score it in a portal if we were gonna take the applications and move them around anyways? I feel like if we get the list, it needs to be transparent. The public needs to see it so that they know none of us are seeing anything under 47 and saying, hey, like, let's fudge this up and award that one. I feel like
I agree.
if we get it, they need to get it.
Couldn't you just have your ordinance or resolution worded for the dollar amount to say, like, not hard 47%, any eligible applications that meet a score that will award close to $60 million as intended, And then whether it's 75 or 78, because again, there's some projects that may be ineligible in that. There's some that may have 2 or 3, but now you're not cherry picking a project or being accused of that.
I like that idea.
If you do it that way, then it's like, it's gonna be whatever number of projects get us, and it's gonna be close, it's not gonna go from 75 to 140. If 3
No, it's
projects are ineligible, it might go to 78. If 10 people put in 2 grants, it might go to 80, but it's not gonna go from 75 to 141. And then you don't know who you're moving, you didn't see a list yet, you just said, we're gonna award $60 million.
Well, and like I said, you have to decide the number of applications. I think another thing you have to decide is, are you going to fully fund what the application requests? Are you going to say the top 5 or whatever it is, get full funding requests? The next group gets 95% of their funding requests. The next group might get 90. That allows you then to go from maybe 75 to maybe 90 or 95.
But
It does, but 75 are getting, and again, it's your meeting, I'm not debating the chair. 75 are getting fully funded, so you have more than half the people getting everything, assuming they get the quote from their contractor, whoever's doing the work, fully funded, more than half. If you do that, yes, you might have more people, but now we're almost at the point where if we're gonna give everybody money, we could have just taken the total and divided by 141. Why did you waste all those hours doing the application?
The danger with doing it that way is if you give someone 80 or 90% of the money they ask for, the project may never get done.
yeah,
And then you don't get a refund back for what they already spent. So rather than do that, and rather than the public sees us as playing God, and we're just saying how much money that person's getting, how much that one's getting. I always thought all along, and the way I answered the public was, whatever they requested, either they're approved or not. If they're approved, that's what they get. It's what they requested, because booth management, if I'm not mistaken, evaluated these projects and determined on the analysis whether or not that budget amount
Exactly.
accurately reflected the amount of work, right?
Yes,
Correct.
100%.
Okay, so I think we go, like you said, Mr. Swets, if there's 75 approved apps, you give them the whole amount. And we don't start tinkering.
There's 75 that have multiple applications.
Not multiple, no. He's just talking
So
about,
you're talking about 75 single.
Right.
Not if they have
gentlemen,
2
I've
or
been
3.
trying to say something and both of you have been
But not
talking.
reduce- but
So
not
I'm
reduce
going
it.
to just
You gotta
continue to
talk
speak
fast.
like you
Talk
guys do.
fast.
Yeah, so what I was going to say after Mr. McGinley spoke is that I agree that we need to we fully funding 75 is a greater impact than partially funding all 141, because we know out of this, we should get a report back that 75 projects were completed in this timeline, whereas
Exactly.
we might get, if we just fund them a little bit here and there, then things might not get completed, until 10 years down the road when they found another funding source to match the other funds. So I think we have to weigh, Mr. McGinley, whether or not we want to fund 75 full projects or
If
100
that's what
and
the
some
majority
half
wishes,
projects.
that's fine.
Well, to that point too, I mean, they're supposed to be completed by a certain date. If they don't get that extra funding, it's not gonna be done.
Yeah,
Right.
2026.
And then the money will, but then if we see it's not completed during all of these interim reports, right, we see it's not completed,
Yes.
then we have to take the money back, then we're reallocating money. So I feel like that's another good
That's
thing.
unworkable, really.
Yeah, it's difficult.
There's not enough time.
Especially because it's not our full-time, like, we're as council members are relying on other people to do all this work for us. Whereas if we could do it right the first time and not have to continuously manage it, take money back, give it for another qualified project, determine that project's eligibility.
So do we have to have, vote these little motions at a public meeting, like,
You certainly
an
do.
entity has 1 app, 3 apps, and they only get a word of 1. So we have to do that maybe at a very soon upcoming meeting.
Yeah.
And maybe another motion, those 75, vote on that 47% or greater, we have to vote on that, right?
Or you can have one and just amend it all next meeting.
So, yeah.
If you ask for the information, she can provide it to everyone, and then whether it's
Well,
multiple projects or 1 project or the meeting after, whatever council wants to do.
I
Yeah,
think
well,
we'd better off to have 2 different, at least.
I agree.
It's clearer then.
Yeah, and maybe a third motion saying, we all agree that, if we decided to award the project, we fully fund that project.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so unfortunately, I don't think there can be motions. I think we probably need a resolution for every single one, so I can work with the Office of Law.
Okay,
They'll have their work cut out for them to get, and we could just get rough resolutions made up so that we could plug in what you want to fund, if we want to do this, want to do that, so we'll try it, maybe three might be ideal, but we can work through that and we'll get that information to council.
When will that be then for the next?
For the
work session?
next,
So do you want to on voting for next time, but then like voting as far as getting the parameters and then council voting the first meeting in February and accepting them?
yes. Is that okay?
So that would be 2 weeks later, but again,
Well,
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
this is something I've been contemplating for a long time now,
Sorry, I can't see.
unfortunately. We sat on this money for what, 13 months at this point or something like that? I think it behooves us to move ahead and get this money out into the economy and get it out to the people we can help. You know, it's just, to me, I know we had different thoughts about, you know, we're going through a manager situation, or doing some other things. We had other issues that we had to develop and look at. But this is a primary responsibility to the community at large. And I think that should take our priority now. We now have a search committee. Now the American Rescue Funds have to be the priority to get it out there.
So if council is okay with just recognizing that the next voting session will be sloppy and will be things that we're just talking about preemptively right now and not at a full, work session, we could try to get as many resolutions with blanks filled in and try to get this money out at the next one. There's going to be amendments. There's going to be like a lot more discussion. It will all be during the voting session. But if everybody is okay with that, then I think we could get it all on the voting. It's just not going to be, it's not going to be clear cut. We'll try to get the resolutions out
Well,
as much in advance as we can. But I'm okay with voting on it because we have not wasted, but it's been a long time.
I think the more we can tell Ms. Booth and their associates what we want to do, it makes it easier for them to assemble the lists and whatever else has to be done.
Yeah,
we'll-
just so you understand, that'll be 75 resolutions plus ABC appointments. So buckle in.
One common resolution, you can fill the name in.
Can you attach a list?
Yeah, you have to vote on each one.
That wouldn't be like a special meeting or anything. I want to get it done as soon as possible too. I don't want to push it into February. But could we do a special meeting?
We can just get it done.
this?
We can just do it. I'm
Do
okay
it
with
now.
just doing it. It's just gonna be long. It's gonna be long. We'll get it
Like
done.
a-
We've had long ones before.
Yeah, we can do it.
And we'll make a
I'm just
mass
looking at all of
motion,
you saying we
refund
gotta be
these
here.
75.
Could we?
We can, yeah.
That'll be something.
Either
we
one
can do.
resolution or 5 or 10 resolutions, not 75.
I don't know. He just looked at me and said
And put-
75.
And you put 10 entities on it,
Yeah.
and you read it out loud, the resolution.
All right, we'll work it out for the next meeting. Ms. Booth, do you have anything else? I'm sorry, we kind of got.
Not at all. We'll make the adjustments, look for the duplicate projects, and provide the information to Brian and his team for him to share with you all. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along, we got discussion regarding resolution, council requesting a whole home repairs program grant from the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development. Mr. Riley.
Good evening, council. It is recommended the county council approve a resolution for the submission of the home repairs program and designate Brian Sweat, the acting county manager, to execute all documents related to this program. This program is a program from the State Department of Community and Economic Development. The county's been allocated approximately $3.2 million by DCED under this program. Grant funds will be used to address habitability and safety concerns, provide measures to improve energy or water efficiency, and make units accessible for individuals that have disabilities throughout the county. In order to access grant funds, the county needs to submit an application first to DCD by the end of the month. The program represents the largest investment in housing that the Pennsylvania legislature has made in recent history. Grants are going to be made available to homeowners whose household income does not exceed 80% of the median income of the area. Also, loans can be made available to small landlords renting affordable units with the loan secured by a mortgage against the property. Are there any questions?
Is there any county match?
No.
Thank you. Sounds great.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so 3 was deleted. Number 4, discussion regarding resolution designating the county manager, director of operations, and/or county engineers authorized signatory for execution of documents. Mr. Swett?
Yeah, I'll take this one. It's in our packet. It's been done, I think it was 3 years ago. Basically, it's just for anything for the state. It authorizes either the manager or the operations division head or the engineer to sign off. I had the resolution number in front of me. I would have gave it to you, but it was 3 or 4 years ago. Just gives a signature authority. Still, if the project like Mr. Riley's or anybody's will bring it in front of council, but just gives a signature authority to move forward.
Are you guys good? Can we move on? Oh, Mr. McGinley.
Question. Why would we have 3 different people who sign up?
If you want it to be one, I'm okay with that. I mean, if we did 3 last time. I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
The manager is the person who works with council. County engineer.
Correct.
Those two position heads have some in it, but it's not at the level. My strong position is the county manager.
I don't have, as long as Mr. Flash doesn't have an issue, and I'll check with him before the next meeting, I'm fine with that.
Would there be any concern if the county manager wasn't available, was not around, either due to health reasons or just in another country or something like that? And I think that's
Yeah.
usually why they have 2 people on
The
there.
designate.
Yes,
that's allowed.
What makes the resolution the manager or doesn't?
Yeah, I would put that in the resolution.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just writing manager or designate. You guys okay? We'll move on to the next one. Good. Okay, number 5, discussion regarding resolution approving a contract with Servco Insurance Services Incorporated as third-party administrator for Luzerne County Workers' Compensation Insurance for fiscal years 23-25. Ms. Pecora?
Hi, good evening. We had sent out an RFP for our workman's comp third-party administrator back in October. We are asking for approval for Servco Insurance Services for our workman's comp claims going forward. So it's for a 3-year contract, which would have started January 1, 2023. We're a little bit late, so we would have to just adjust that date based upon your decision to move forward. So we had 4 responses. We interviewed the 3 most competitive proposals we received back. The difference in the pricing between the 2 that we were considering in Servco is for their third-party administration, it's $23,000 for the first year, and then it increases slightly during the 3-year contract. And Excalibur was the other. They had a flat fee of $36,000 for the 3 years. So the difference is about $5,000 for the first year, and then it decreases a little bit over the next 3 years, but they are maintaining that flat fee. So the other moving parts to this is the managed care and rehab that goes with the third-party administration. So that's basically the review of medical bills, file utilization, pharmacy and prescription reviews related to the work injuries. So that is the price that Servco gave us was an estimate based on our past claims. So and Excalibur gave us a flat fee. However, when we did the interviews, we liked Servco because they offered an online platform. So the administrative team at the county, when we're doing the claims, handling them, the reporting is at our fingertips. The ease of use was better for what we were needing to do. So if you would take that into consideration.
Ms. Pecora, in the Servco contract, you said it started at 23K and then increases?
Yeah, it's for 2024, it is 23,690, and then for 2025, it would be 24,400.
Okay, and then what was the Excalibur flat fee?
That was 36,000 each year.
36.
Mhm.
Good question.
Yes.
having dealt with insurance providers for a large part of my life, I know that a lot of times one carrier will underbid another carrier. But when you really drill it down, the devil's in the details. And you read through all the covenants and things like that of each proposal. In your opinion, was there any type of exclusions or anything like that, or covenants that were presented that maybe helped Servco achieve that lower bid?
Not that I'm aware of. The other bids, I don't have the form with me. I believe one of the other companies was right around where Excalibur was. And the difference came in kind of with that managed care and rehab. So I don't.
Sometimes they have different limitations, they have different.
So, and
capacity.
well, and that's kind of the hard thing with workman's compensation, because there's so many moving parts to it. And the managed care and rehab is based upon your claims. So that was a high estimate on their end, which that's where a big difference comes in also. And it's just really hard to say. So they were cheaper for the third-party administration. And like I said, the services that they had to offer for what the county team that's working with these claims was looking for, that was appealing to them, with the online reporting and things like that. So
That one line under Servco's quote, it reads, Servco charges on a case-by-case basis. This is an estimate.
So that
18,000 was an estimate for the projected amount of cases you thought
right,
we would have.
right. So they just looked at our past claims and did an estimation for the nurse care and rehab for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Urban?
Top paragraph of the service agreement needs to be fixed. It says, agreement made and entered in this day of 2022, so that's gonna have to say 2023. The other thing is Luzerne County is a third-class county, not a fourth-class county. In the first paragraph of the agreement.
Gavin, did you have your hand up?
I did.
Go ahead.
With the asterisks, my concern is if we had more cases, at least we know that it's caliber, it's a flat rate. We're
Correct.
done.
Correct.
This is open ended.
Right.
And over 3 years, we may be losing money at the end. I kind of like the sure thing versus, on a case-to-case basis. I mean, that we can end up paying 10 grand.
Correct.
I don't like that idea.
Do they give any indication that, like, what he's asking about, if there was 2 extra cases, what that would cost? Like, how are they coming up with that?
Well, it would depend on the severity of the claims. So it really all depends. Like any insurance claim, when there's a loss, they put a dollar value on it, and that's
See, there's $4,000 on an average per year.
right.
There could be one case per year that could blow that right out of the water.
Correct.
On a back injury, or I'm in favor of this sure thing. There's no savings to be had there, really. It's kind of a trick. I don't like it.
The one thing about workers' comp is it's just wage loss and medical benefits. So all that other stuff that you get from regular litigation, the pain and suffering,
I understand that, but a couple cases throw this right out the window.
it could. You are correct.
Ooh,
I mean,
this is
it's
what
just-
you do, isn't it? All right, Carl.
Or you can't vote. I don't think I will. But it's not, so, and the cases are small. So it's generally the lump sums at the end. It's not quite as big, but you have no idea how many you're getting. So you get enough of them.
Correct.
No
And
matter
that-
how small it is, it doesn't matter.
And it won't take, but in my opinion, one to bridge that $4,000. I just wouldn't go that route. I would like to know that this is our sure money that we're spending per year and be done with it.
And it's your decision.
Just right. Or go back and tell them for $4,000 you can have it, but guarantee it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Mr. McGinley, go
Right?
ahead.
Yeah, couple things. Number one, my understanding is we've never had any problems with service from Excalibur, is that true?
I can't speak to that because I don't work with them directly.
That's my understanding, and I understand maybe your situation. The second part is, we heard it earlier this evening, the young lady is sitting in the second row, talked about small local business, and the things they provide. You're working here with a company potentially that is not local. And I don't know what everybody's experiences are, but I know if you have a local company, it's a lot easier to work with. If you have a company that's located somewhere else.
Which one's local?
It's hell. So, I mean, I agree with Mr. Scavenge. I worked with insurances, that was part of my previous career. And you're right, one case could blow everything out of the water. Yeah, it could be, $20,000 or $30,000 case, and then you're sunk.
Yeah, Mr. Spicer, did you have anything to add?
When council's done, I just wanted to,
Okay, you guys have anything else?
I don't want to.
Go ahead.
So I just want to say, our intent is just like council going through the budget. It's your decision, and we're not pushing it off to you, and we're not trying to push one firm versus the other. We're trying to find savings. It's not a disciplinary issue. It's not a service issue as far as I know. Again, just like this before, I do not work with Excalibur every day. But it's one of the things that the RFP's up, we're gonna bid it, regardless if you've been here for 20 years. This is why we had it on for December. We tried to get it on, so we could have, if we were gonna change, we could have done that in January. And it's no slight to our current provider. My job, whether it's in budget finance or in this role, is to get contracts in front of people for RFPs, so we have current contracts. That's really what we're doing. However this shakes out, is with council, and I agree, it is an estimate.
So could we put it on the next meeting to a vote and put both of them on there, and then we go around just like we did to get somebody on?
Yeah, we could leave it, blank and,
That works.
no, wait, hold on.
We went through that. Yeah, I don't think we can't. You can have two different resolutions with names on it, but you can't have a resolution that doesn't get a recommendation.
Two different resolutions. Hey,
Wait, two different resolutions.
Two different names.
Well, then potentially two resolutions can pass. I don't think we can do that.
If there's gonna be a resolution to vote on, is it in Serco? And that doesn't pass, then the next meeting you could vote on somebody else.
We can't do it at one meeting?
You can do it in one.
I think it would, if I could just, in Excalibur's price, I think if we could do it at the next meeting with both of them, if that's allowable, we should do that because Excalibur is our current carrier. And we should pass it sooner than later because there is savings from what we're paying now for what we'll be paying if we renew with them. They did give us a decreased cost, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so if we can do that.
I just had one question, which I normally don't do. But when Mr. Liscavige was saying one big claim could throw up, we pay all of our own workers' compensation. This is just administrative.
So this, yeah, so, and the savings was in the third-party administration, that's what it was for. The third-party administration was what the RFP was for. There's just a lot of moving parts to workman's comp. But the claims that get paid out of the claims fund. So there's also bill review, the medical bill review, they go line by line, they charge line by line. So there is potential for savings.
Right, but we don't get hit with one big case. That has nothing to do with who's administering.
No, they're keeping track of the bills, what needs to be paid. They're checking up, following up on doctor's appointments. Is the claimant going to the appointments they're supposed to be going to? Are they doing everything that they need to do to ensure a timely return to work? So they're administering these claims to get them moving on so they can close them. That's what we're paying them for as the third party.
Well done calling them the claimant and not the plaintiff. Yeah, so well done.
All right, are we okay on this?
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Moving on, number 6, discussion regarding resolution for County of Luzerne agreeing to implement Act 57 of 2022.
I'll take this one.
Yeah, take your time.
So this was forwarded by the treasurer's office to Mr. Skeen and I, and it's actually needs to be done. It was passed by Governor Wolf. It's just one of those things that it's an act that's passed that we need to move forward. It's spelled out here, and it just talks about relief that's available under the act. I can get more information if you want before we vote. I'm not very familiar with it, but that it's right in front of us. It's something we needed to do. And again, before we make your vote, I can get more information.
the state passed the act.
Yeah.
It's a law,
Yes,
and we're just resolving that we're gonna follow the law.
follow it, correct.
Sounds like a pretty good idea.
Even if the law doesn't make sense, we have to vote to follow.
Yes.
Here we are. All right, number 7, receive and discuss division reports for December 2022.
That'll be real quick. So I just want to make one for public, for people online, for council. I know there's a lot of grant funds, there's different funding sources, budget finance knows that. But in this report, so every month, and in this month, pages 29 to 34, talk about what roads we worked on, what the estimated dates are. So there is a lot of information out there. It may not be discussed at every meeting. It may not talk about who submitted the complaint. We may have done it on our own, but there's almost 5 pages of roads and bridges that were worked on this month. And of course, in the winter, there's not as many as in the summer, but it's in there. It talks about this road, this bridge, estimated completion date, what the project is. So there's a lot of information that is available, but maybe you're not looking for it there, or you don't even know it's out there. So in the manager report every month is a bunch of pages about roads and bridges that were worked on by, like I said, in this report, it's almost 5 pages.
And this is posted online for everybody to see.
So for the residents that think we're not working on roads and bridges, this is an extensive report itemizing 22 bridges that are currently in paving projects all around the county that are currently either going out for bid or already bid or underway.
Yes.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Luzerne County Fix Our Roads, Luzerne County Committee. You hear it right here. There's 22 of them. It's available online, all of the updates. And I'm not patronizing anybody who's part of that committee. I'm really telling you, these are all of the updates and they're all in one spot for you to find.
There are many.
There are a lot, yeah. All right, does anybody have any questions on those? Did you have any questions, Mr. Schultz? We can just email you.
Sure.
Perfect.
It's been a public meeting, email me.
Great. Okay, number 8, we have controller discussion. Controller Griffin?
Sure. The main event.
Okay, it's 8:15. Keep me on track. I'll be done by 8:30, guaranteed. 8:25, good. I'll do it. Keep me posted. The concern that I have for council, and I certainly understand the division of legislative and executive branch and administration's job as well as council's job. My concern is the controller with that report that I gave everybody a copy. I did send a copy to the council as well as post one online, and all the parties signed off on it. The problem we're having in the county from the controller's point of view is we need to start fixing problems and stop pontificating, for lack of a better term, about how these things can be better handled at another day. This issue with the uniform fund has been a blister on this county since 2010 when I was a controller back then. And when I came in and I did an audit of the uniform fund when I first came in January, I sat down at length with the Office of Law, the warden, the union, when we got finally finished with this audit report, finding the problems that we have with this whole uniform fund is at the end of the day, the problem with the uniform fund is what we do is we give a vendor a lump sum check for the corrections officers that are in the union. And the vendor is responsible to make sure that the person who works for the county gets his due amount. So for instance, this year going out, we're going to give Cranston a check for $39,200 next week. He'll take that check and he'll have a list of names that goes to that check. And when that person comes in, he'll tick that off and say, okay, he bought a $100 shirt. Now he has $600. There's no accounting to that process, number one, which is the biggest issue for the controller's office. Number two, the biggest problem we have is there's no control over that money once the vendor gets it. If that corrections officer leaves the county and he's got $600 left on the books, we won't get that money back. That's another question that we have, because we don't know how much money was left on the books, because we don't have any idea how much money the guy spent or didn't spend, because we get no receipts. It's a very, very package. The way they do it is fiscally irresponsible from beginning to end. And at the end of the day, the issue was that the union's problem is that they don't like the fact that they get taxed on the uniforms. And so instead of getting 700, they're only going to get 6 and change as a benefit. So the Office of Law and myself and a couple other folks sat down, we decided and looked into the statutes and laws and found out if it's an accountable plan, they can actually get a check for $700 in their paycheck that's not taxable to them, because we are requiring them to wear a certain uniform to work there. And that does not circumvent IRS regulation. It certainly doesn't circumvent any process that we do. So the Office of Law, myself and the union sat down and we agreed in July that that was a better practice to fix this problem. So it makes it easier for the person who's in the jail or at the corrections office who has to do the accounting of all of this. Is a daunting task for one person. When you're talking about 230 corrections officers plus support staff, to keep track of $700 per person is like her only job. So we thought that that would be a best practice to do in the county. Of course, we've switched managers and we had some other issues. I sat with Brian today about this issue, and I just want to let council know what the process is that we're having. You guys allocate $200 and some thousand to this uniform fund every year. And I think it's imperative that the taxpayers know that we're keeping good track of their money. We're doing it according to the union contract, and our union contract that I signed on as a council member, as some of the members that were here in 2020, clearly does not state that we give it to them as a lump sum check. It says in the audit report that that's given to them as a $700 allowance as a payment to a vendor of their choice. The problem that we have is we have to fix this issue because next week is the time when they have to go out and issue that money. And so I want to work hand in hand with the administration as well as the Office of Law to make it a better plan. The problem was when the Office of Law, obviously, the chief solicitor has more important things to do than worry about a uniform fund, so he turns it over to somebody else, and they didn't do the work to come to the controller and the union people to sit down and say, what was the consensus of everybody at the table so we could fix this problem? We drafted a quarterly report that I put in your packet, and the quarterly report tells the vendor that they have to sign off on that when a person gets a uniform allowance at that store, they have to give us a quarterly report that says how much money is left on their fund. Well, that's great, but that doesn't fix the problem. The problem is, how do we account for that money, and how do we make sure that the person who we're allocating as an employee of this county gets the $700 that they're due? And if they move from vendor to vendor, what happens to that money? That's the other issue. So if you're a corrections officer and buying uniforms from Cranston this year, and next year you go to Star, that money sits at Cranston. So it doesn't get transferred over to Star because it's just not accountable. So this controller's point of view, as well as the other people that were at the table, is let's give them a lump sum check, $700. They're responsible to buy uniforms with it or not. If they come into the jail not looking proper, the warden has the ability to reprimand them accordingly, but they get the $700 to buy uniforms. And that's what their job is. They get the money to do that. And that's the best way to handle the whole situation. And to my surprise today, when I spoke to some people at the prison, there are employees of the union that are clearly getting money put in their paycheck as a taxable benefit currently. And the union says nothing about that. There's like 25 or 30 employees in the union that are getting $700 in January, and it's taxed to them. But there's no problem with that. But the other 230, we have a problem with taxing their salary. So I just wanted council to know the issues with your allocation of that uniform fund. And I'm hoping that with this, the acting manager and the Office of Law, that we can correct this to make sure that this plan is accountable. So that when we give a union employee $700 for uniforms, we actually know he's going to get his $700. And some vendors not sitting fat and happy with $39,000 of our money in January to run his business until the people come in and get closed. Because we're giving Cranston $39,000, we're giving Galls $81,900, and we're giving Star $52,500 in January. And they sit with that money for the entire year. And then they get to carry it over from year to year to year, depending on how much money's left over. It's just not an accountable plan, and it needs to be fixed sooner rather than later, so we can make sure that the people get the money that they're due, and that the taxpayers' money is protected, so that we're not giving vendors money to run their businesses in January, and they may never expend that money until the following year. We don't even know how long it'll take for them to do that. So And it circumvents our purchasing policy as well. I mean, if we're gonna give a vendor a certain amount of money for uniforms, we're not RFPing those uniforms, we're not bidding those uniforms, nothing. We're requiring that corrections officer to go to one vendor that was never bid and it was never RFP to. And so I think there's a problem with the purchasing policy being violated as well. So I just wanted council to know, that I did put that audit out, and I think I did send an email to all council, have you take a look at it. But I thought it would be prudent for me to give you a personal presentation on it at least, because things like this are pretty important. And I think it's easier for us to have the discussion openly in public for everybody, rather than expect you to read it and understand it. So that's the issue that I'm having with the uniform fund. So I won't beat it up anymore, but any questions that anybody has on council, be more than happy to try and enlighten you or tell you. Kevin.
I think you should start off 2023 right, make the uniform policy uniform and give everybody $700. There are a lot of places. It's so simplistic. Why wouldn't we do that?
Well, we do feel that that's the best way. In fact, when we had the discussion in July and we sat down with the union, the union has absolutely no problem with that. So the problem becomes is when it was turned over to somebody else in the Office of Law, he tried to do something on this side without checking with everybody else along the way. And to Harry's credit, I sat down with the attorney from the Office of Law. I would like to have that conversation again with him in person and the union and see if we can iron this whole thing out. So, but again, that's an administrative issue. And I just wanted council to know what's going on financially on this whole issue. But it's a very concerning process because we are going $200,000. That's a lot of money for not having good accountability for it. Either we're going to do it as a receipt process and tick and tie receipts to accounts payables and give everybody all that extra work, or we're just going to give the guy the money and say, hey, you're responsible for your uniforms with that money. You come in with a ripped shirt, you're going to be written up for that. You have to buy a uniform with it.
And there's no, like, we don't know what a pair of pants costs. So Johnny, who owns Acme Uniforms, might have a bad day at the casino and save 10 just on $10.
Yeah.
That's like, it is. It's a ridiculous way to do business. And
I think we don't do that with any other vendors. We don't do that with paper. We don't do that with, we don't go to Phillips Supply and say, here's a check for 100,000 for skids of paper and whatever we don't use, true up with us at the end of the year. We don't do that. And I think from a budgeting point of view and from an accounting point of view,
Run out of paper first, then we go on.
it's just not, okay. Well, we're not going to go down that road. But so that's my concern. Kendra?
Controller Griffith, I just would like to let you know that if it weren't for questions, you were done at 8:25 on the dot. Yes, you were.
Well done.
Nice job. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. I know we have a lot on our plates and I think it's important to council to know what's going on. So.
Yeah, thank you for the explanation.
Anybody else? All good? Send me emails if you have any other questions. Thank you so much.
We now have public comment. Anybody that wishes to speak, Mr. Knapp.
On the record, I, Ron Knapp from Natick, am respectfully requesting County Chair Radel, Vice Chair Lombardo, and all other council persons to allocate American Rescue Plan funds to homeowners and property owners who were remanded to their homes by Governor Wolf during the coronavirus lockdown. When the homeowners were locked down, they were subject to pay the stormwater fee, MS4 unfunded federally mandated. This is in respect to the 33 communities in Luzerne County who are subject to pay Wyan Valley Sanitary for their part in maintaining and upgrading the stormwater infrastructure. The fee bearers deserves full recovery of the stormwater fee during the lockdown. The revenue in their homes were constricted. They received stimulus resources to pay basic needs, food, clothing, toiletries, and home essentials. When applying for unemployment benefits, there was a bottleneck because of the volume of claims and the antiquated infrastructure of the unemployment system. The fee is unfunded and federally mandated. Governor Wolf remanded the fee bearers to their homes unless they were essential workers. I am beating a dead horse. I appreciate this. But what I'm asking now is interim manager Schwetz to forward this email to Booth and Associates for them to come back and give the taxpayers, the bearers of this tax fee, the answer. Not Councilman Thornton, who I'm sure is not completely up on all the rules, under the Protection Agency Clean Water State Revolving Fund, that's a state and federal, under the Clean Water SRF, eligible projects include construct, improve, and repair wastewater treatment plants, control non-point sources of pollution, improve resilience of infrastructure to severe weather events, create green infrastructure, manage and treat stormwater and subsurface drainage water, facilitate water reuse, and protect water bodies from pollution. Bottom line is I have nothing against Wyoming Valley Sanitary Authority. If they get the money that they're asking for ARP money, we should be sitting on gold toilets in all our homes, okay? The bottom line is, if they lost revenue and they can collect from the ARP funds, these citizens, the fee bearers of this tax, should be able to recoup that money because they were paying for that fee when their revenue was constricted. That's my position. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. Ms. Massaro?
Okay, so I have a totally stupid question, but maybe you guys can help me out here. All right, I have a road in my town that has not been paved, and they constantly pave, like put that fill in it. Coal patch, thank you. And they're constantly doing that. It has needed to be paid for 7 years. That tells you how bad it has gotten. It has been like needed to be paved for 7 years. And it is a town road. And they keep saying, oh, we just don't have the money. We just don't have the money. Initially, before that, it was because right at the end of this street, Sly Street in Luzerne, there's and I encourage anyone to take that road, one of these days, because I actually live on the one way at the end, and there's no other road for me to take. I have to take that or Carpenter, one straight up, and it's really bad. And I know it's a town road. So my question is, like, is there anything that I can do to make them pave it? Because initially down on they wouldn't pave it because there was a company that was there that at the end of the road, if you kept going on it, it would end up in a company parking lot. So they said, oh, we're going to leave it up to them. The company moved out and they still haven't paved that road. And it's been 7 years and it's absolutely horrible. And I've had to replace pieces on my car because of it and everything else. Is there anything I can do? I know it's a town road, so I don't know. It's not really.
So it's Luzerne Borough?
It's Luzerne Borough.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you just have to go to the Council of Luzerne.
And I
Borough
have.
And just, I don't think there's any way we can impact that. Go, Mr. Thornton.
I could just give you a suggestion. Do as they did for years at our town meetings. You get 8 or 10 residents who are angry, and you show up at every single public meeting.
You could probably recruit people.
They all don't live there, though. They don't live there. Somebody want to camp in my backyard?
You have residents, neighbors around you on that.
Yeah,
road.
I do. And I'm friends with a lot of
Be the
them.
leader, active force, and get them to go to the public meetings. That's the only thing they're gonna listen to.
Yeah,
Honestly.
we have meetings just about every time they have meetings. So unfortunately.
And I'll tell you one other thing, when we were on council, and it's very annoying, we would get liquid fuels money. We would have a road totally falling apart, and we could not take that money because there was a segment account, town designated as lower income. And that money had to be spent in that section of town. So people would always accuse you of, must be your relative that lives on that street because you're always paving it.
Right.
Them same streets.
And it was.
It had nothing to
It
do
was
with
my
it.
dad living on those.
Yeah, the one
Oh, they
paved,
did.
the one road that got paved, actually the two roads. The one just happened to be Academy where the police station and the mayor's office is on. And the other one, a town council meeting or person that the town council chair lives on that road. So, I mean, those are the only two roads that got paved in the last 10 years. And, so I'm kind of freaking out over it.
Sherman,
All right, thanks.
Andy, you don't have any pull over there in Luzerne, buddy?
I know exactly where she's talking about. They do live over there. I don't know if Sly Street qualifies under the community development block grant program. We have been pretty generous with Luzerne in the past. They've always selected other streets, so I'm wondering if Sly Street doesn't qualify, but certainly we could look at that and tell them that, you know, there was a complaint to county council, and if that could be a priority for them, it does qualify.
Okay.
We certainly can do that.
There we go. Mr. Griffin, did you have any? Yep.
Figured because I knew somebody else that lived around there.
Council citizens, Greg Griffin. So 13 months now, council has sat on $96 million that Washington sent you. Now, it seems like you're convinced still that, you know, it looks like there's 75 applicants that are going to make the cut possibly, and their organizations. Still, after 13 months, none of you have decided that maybe the senior citizens that are working poor deserves a cut of the money. Now, Governor Wolf, ARP will allow individual payments to individual citizens that are eligible, not just organizations. Governor Wolf wants to give $2,000 out of the $1 billion state ARP money. Mayor Brown, he gave $300 per household, $7,500 per house home improvement. He gave $7,500 to each house person, individual, to buy a house in Wilkes-Barre. He gave $7,500 ARP money to anyone to start a business in Wilkes-Barre. So it doesn't have to go to individual organizations. Now, Councilman Thornton said he was getting a lot of emails and it seemed like they're all saying the same thing. And he didn't use the word coached, but he said it sounded like maybe they were all got together on the same message. But yeah, it's going to be the same thing council's getting. It's senior citizens that are freezing. They need some cash and they deserve some money from y'all. And I urge council to carve out a piece of the 96 million. It's still not too late. You'll still have plenty of money if you could figure out to throw them all $1,000 who are eligible. I don't know, it's absolutely ridiculous. And this closed portal system, now it sounds like maybe at the end, the citizens may be able to find out what happened, but you know, everything is bad. None of you thought there'd be 149 applicants. So you're in a real fix, but you're going to be in a real fix if you don't help the seniors and working poor and throw them some change, because you got $96 million and you still have time to get it all together, help them with the utility bill. I don't care what you do with it, figure it out, get the money to the seniors and the working poor like Governor Wolf wants to do and Mayor Brown has done, and also give the rest to the organizations if that's what you want. But you still have time, and I don't even know what's going to happen if these senior citizens and the working poor are cut out of this. It's not going to be good politically. Thank you.
Any other members of the public? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Opposed? Please adjourn.
All that, I'll say.